Hello everybody and welcome to my 100th video on this channel. I can hardly believe I've made 100 videos about model trains, but making these videos and putting them together has become a bit of an extra hobby in itself, so I hope you've been enjoying some of them. Today I'm taking a look at the rather unexpected return of the new Rapido Dynamometer car, which I now have a chance to take a look at. I say unexpected because this model was released back in November. I purchased the model in the fictional BR maroon livery. However, no sooner had it arrived here at Melchester when Rapido issued a product recall on all the models due to a potential fault on the lighting system. We don't want the model catching fire, so it was duly returned to Rails of Sheffield. The model is back with me, and I'm hoping this green sticker indicates that the faulty wiring has now been given the all clear. I used the product recall as an opportunity to swap liveries, this time to the faux teak livery and sporting the Sans Gill lettering that the coach carried after 1948 under British Railways. This is because I want to pair this model with the forthcoming model of Bulleid's leader locomotive, due soon from KR Models. This nicely produced owner's manual sets out the history of this unusual coach. A dynamometer car scientifically measures the performance of locomotives. Instruments inside measure the speed, power, and other loco statistics, many of which were applied to a paper trace operated mechanically from the movement of the vehicle. There was also equipment to allow operators to speak to the driver. Now, this is a super detailed model, but it does come with some extra detail parts that you can fit yourself, some pipework and some very finely etched metal grills for the coach end windows. The first release of this model was a commission by Rails of Sheffield, and as such came in a Rails branded box. For this new second release, the packaging is entirely Rapido's own, and they've been able to rectify one or two mistakes present in the first release, such as correcting the missing lining on the LNER liveried versions and a more accurate roof colour. The version I'm holding here is a completely new livery for Rapido, representing as it does the 1949 version with British Railways Gill Sans lettering. Although it appears as a teak coach, the prototype was actually made of metal and a faux teak livery was applied in keeping with the LNER livery. This is how the coach would have appeared towards the end of its working life, and at a time when it was on loan to the southern region for use with Oliver Bulleid's leader locomotive. The underframe detail is fully modelled with an incredible amount of detail, much of which, of course, will never be seen. Fully assembled brake rigging made up of separately applied parts, and of course the vacuum brake system. The main feature of the underframe detail is the 9th flangeless wheel, which would be lowered onto the rail to enable the dynamometer equipment in the carriage to start recording data. On the model, this wheel is fixed in the raised position. I wonder if it would have been at all feasible to have this as a working feature. After all, there are some locomotives that have flangeless pony truck wheels, and these work well. I think it would have taken this model to the next level, if that's even possible. This central section of the underframe contained a horizontal 30-leaf spring, which was directly connected to a paper trace in the car above. This would measure the locomotive's drawbar pull. Here is the coach sitting in a siding at the back of Melchester Works, waiting to go on test with Bulleid's new leader locomotive when that arrives. Until then, I'll be running it with another Bulleid prototype in the second part of this video. The dynamometer car has a very distinctive appearance, and its teak livery is something of a novelty down here on the southern region. On the real thing, this effect was created by a technique called scumbling, the application of base layers of paint and varnish and using very high quality brushes to gain the desired effect. On the model, this effect is achieved by the use of a pixelated print. It looks very obvious under close magnification, but is totally invisible to the average naked eye. The Clarestry roof is a prominent feature on this model. Such roofs derived from ecclesiastical architecture, which would allow light into large churches and cathedrals. On the model, we even have beautifully etched glass windows, featuring the most intricate filigree pattern, an amazing achievement at this scale. Separately applied and very fine handrails run the length of the Clarestry roof sides, with additional grab rails at the end and above the doors. This view also shows the distinctive Gresley bogie. The coach ends are superbly modelled. Particularly noticeable is the gangway connection, which even depicts the bunched up canvas, complete with folds. The oval buffers are sprung, and there is no shortage of footholds for anyone wanting to climb aboard the roof. The windows at this end are covered with an etched metal grille. Presumably this was to prevent lumps of coal from falling from the tender and breaking the glass. At the other end of the coach, the windows are left uncovered, although the grilles are provided in a detail bag, should you wish to add them yourself. You can also see on the end of the carriage the instruments plug, loco plug and water gauge. Here, cables connected to probes on the locomotive would be connected to the dynamometer car so that readings could be taken. At this end we also have the Ducats, which were a later addition. Just as on a brake van, they enabled the boffins working in the dynamometer car, and there could be as many as 11, to have a side view of the locomotive or train. The central section of the dynamometer car also has a Ducat-style feature that projects out from the side, occupying the space of 3 of the side windows. One end tapers nicely to meet the profile of the rest of the car. It's on this section that the word dynamometer is boldly printed, using the Jules Verne typeface that had been adopted by the newly formed British Railways in 1948 as their universal typeface. It appeared across the system in various weights and versions. Rapido, in the accompanying owner's manual, described the interior equipment as looking like something from a Jules Verne novel. I can certainly see what they mean. None other than Captain Nemo himself described the Nautilus as a masterpiece containing masterpieces. I think it's safe to say Rapido's model is a masterpiece, and retailing at the £119 mark, you'd expect nothing less. But let's take a look at the masterpieces contained within. First, though, we need to activate the internal lighting using the magic wand provided. This works in much the same way as the Hornby four-wheel coaches did that I looked at in a previous video, using a magnet to activate a reed switch. In this case, though, the power is drawn directly from the rails rather than via a battery. The effect is perhaps a little on the dim side, but nevertheless enough to illuminate the highly detailed interior that Rapido have provided. In this view, you can see some of the instruments through the window, and the gramophone-like speaker suspended from the roof, used to communicate with the footplate crew. I mentioned earlier the table and paper scroll located directly above the 33-leaf spring, and you can see it here through the window. It's hard to fully appreciate the interior detail just via the windows, so here are some pictures with the body shell removed. All the main equipment is represented, including the paper trace table and the wheels for lifting and lowering the dynamometer wheel and spring. This rear wall is particularly well modelled, with the dials and electrical equipment picked out in white, black and gold. You can also see the water gauge showing the amount of water in the tender. Some of the floor-mounted equipment is modelled, and there are benches and tables for the staff. It really is a fantastic interior as modelled by Rapido, and it's great to have this level of detail inside the carriage. Although it's not a cheap model by any rate, you only need one, and you don't have to be an LNER modeler to justify one for your model layout, as it appeared on several other regions during its lifetime, including the southern. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at Rapido's masterpiece containing masterpieces. Here comes the station pilot to take the dynamometer car and couple it up to the test train waiting in the station, which you can see in the next video, so do stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you for watching and bye for now.